9 different securities from one pool of mortgages. Let's say I have a pool of subprime mortgages, because mortgages that uh, satisfy the federal requirements uh, are backed by institutions like Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, and stuff. And if you issue straight pass-through mortgage-backed securities, U.S. government actually guarantees that they're not going to be defaulted on. If they are, U.S. government takes care of them. So those conforming mortgages, you don't have a problem. The problem was with the subprime mortgages. These are mortgages that do not satisfy those stuff. For example, these days, you have to be even with FHA, which helps with poorer borrowers with smaller mortgages. You need to have at least 640 credit rating, and you need to have at least 40% income to debt ratio, which means debt payments that you make divided by your income should be at least 40%. And just because you have good credit doesn't necessarily mean you're at good credit. Because if you have a lot of debt payments to make, I mean, I know you made your payments, but you borrowed so much, you don't have the money to pay me back. So these guys went to subprime markets, and that market was so unregulated those days. If you guys watch the movie The Big Short, they actually tell the stories of those. Let's say I want to lend to some poor families in Mississippi Delta. Okay, you know, it's American dream. You want to own your own house. It's not a big house. Maybe you're gonna pay only 100,000, but you don't have enough credit rating, and or you don't have enough income. People didn't even look at your income. They said, "Okay, we approve this loan." I mean, normally as a bank, that doesn't make any sense. But there were these mortgage brokers. They actually approved these mortgages, and what they did, they put them in a pool and they sell them to one of the investment banks. And that investment bank does a mortgage-backed structure. And I get those subprime loans where mortgage interest was 10, 12%, when the prime ones were around 4 or 5. So it's expensive to begin with. And I do 3 tranches: senior, mezzanine, crap. I mean, crap is really crap. But senior can be rated single A or double A, mezzanine triple B. The rest, these investment banks actually even kept them in their books because it's backed by real estate mortgages, which are backed by the price of the underlying real estate. That's the collateral. If the real estate prices are going up, in fact, the yields on those craps are shooting up. You can make a lot of money on them. Since they could do that, those brokers didn't care. I mean, they gave you your money in the morning. Uh, by evening, those mortgages were put together and they issued bonds, and some investment bank, some clients somewhere bought them. Of course, when real estate prices started collapsing, especially in Southeast, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, I've seen prices go down by 50% in Tallahassee, which is the capital of the state of Florida. Same thing happened even in Palm Beach County, which is pretty wealthy part of Florida. I mean, these loans typically had 100% or even higher loan to value. You could have borrowed 110,000 to buy $100,000 house with no income verification. They approved it. Nobody cared because that broker, as soon as he sold it off, he made his commission or bid offer spread. he charged you some expenses anyway while doing that. That extra borrowing was to cover those expenses anyway. They didn't care. Of course, when the underlying collateral goes down by 50%, even the senior trenches were going to get a haircut. Mezzanine was definitely gone. Crap obviously is gone. Watch that movie, Big Short. Let me see if it's available on Amazon or somewhere else. It even has Brad Pitt. It's not available for free, but you know, you can rent it on Amazon probably. Yeah, rent it at 379. I am sure if you have some sort of VPN, you can get free versions of that. Mm, The Chinese people are pretty good in that. Back in 2015, I was roommates with, in fact, he's a colleague from here, Chinese professor. And that year, uh, the eighth movie of Quentin Tarantino was going to come out, The Hateful Eight. And, I'm being a big Tarantino fan, I was excited to go in movie theater. He says, "Why are you waiting? I can get you the entire thing on high def today." The movie was not even released. I said, "No, thank you. A, out of my respect to intellectual rights, and B, Tarantino movies are not created for small screen. You gotta watch them in the big screen if you can." And if any of you guys are interested, I have his entire movies in Blu-ray collection. I can lend them to you. Let's see. I mean, you can kind of read what these things mean. But if you really want to concentrate on credit quality, look where the market is going. I mean, this wasn't available 30 years ago, but now it is. They're called, I kind of got started on these a little bit, credit default swaps.